Dr. Vegapunk just revealed the truth about the man who started it all, Joy Boy, the first pirate and the first protagonist of the One Piece world. Where did he come from? How did he die? And what is his connection to our protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy? One Piece is so insane right now. The mysteries that we have been theorizing about for decades are finally being revealed, so let's break it down. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy my videos and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now for that YouTube algorithm. And of course, don't forget that subscribing on YouTube is completely free and it helps me out a lot. Vegapunk's incredible message from beyond the grave has shaken the entire world of One Piece and the entire One Piece fandom. He revealed that the world is sinking into the sea. He revealed the truth about the Mother Flame, and he finally gave us answers about one of the most mysterious figures in all of One Piece, Joy Boy. Joy Boy was born 900 years ago in an ancient kingdom that had incredibly advanced technology. In fact, this technology was so advanced that even Dr. Vegapunk has only managed to uncover and replicate a small fraction of that kingdom's tech. This is saying a lot, because within the modern world of One Piece, Vegapunk is considered to be the single biggest scientific genius whose fantastical inventions are said to be hundreds of years ahead of their time. The twist is that they are actually 1,000 years behind their time, because the ancient kingdom from 900 years ago was more advanced than even Vegapunk's inventions, and many of his inventions were directly inspired by technology from the ancient kingdom. Now, we know that during the Void Century, the ancient kingdom was the enemy of an alliance of 20 kingdoms that eventually became the world government. And it has now been confirmed that Joy Boy was a citizen or subject of this ancient kingdom, and that he became the first pirate in history. We also know that the ancient kingdom apparently managed to create a source of limitless energy, something like an artificial sun that allowed them to power their highly advanced technological inventions, such as the giant robot on Egghead. However, sometime during the Void Century, this source of limitless energy was either destroyed or hidden away, so the giant robot and presumably all those other inventions made by the ancient kingdom eventually ran out of energy. Since the world government has done its best to destroy all remnants of the ancient kingdom and to wipe all knowledge of it from history, trying to recreate the advanced technology of this kingdom has proven to be extremely difficult. Still, Dr. Vegapunk has made incredible progress, especially when it comes to the ability to produce Mother Flames. The Mother Flame is the source of power that allowed the mysterious Sky Weapon, which many believe is the ancient weapon Uranus, to completely destroy the kingdom of Lulusia and essentially sink it into the ocean, causing global ocean levels to rise by 1 meter as a result. And although the Mother Flame that Vegapunk has created is a truly powerful source of energy, it is not a limitless source. We know that because after the Sky Weapon uses it a single time, the Mother Flame is extinguished and more need to be produced for the weapon to be used again. This is why the Gorosei are so desperate to preserve the integrity of Vegapunk's lab, because this lab can be used to produce more Mother Flames. This is probably also the reason why the world government hasn't been using the Sky Weapon a lot more frequently against their enemies. After the original source of limitless energy disappeared following the Void Century, no one was able to produce more similar power sources until Vegapunk showed up and created the Mother Flame. The Mother Flame is an imperfect copy of the original limitless source of power, but it is good enough to power up the Sky Weapon and use it a single time, which is exactly what happened in Lulusia. Many people in the community have already made the connection between this type of energy that comes from the Mother Flame and nuclear or atomic energy in our own world. And in fact, in one of his recent videos, Arthur from the Library of Ohara pointed out that the text that reads A and Mu on the container of the Mother Flame at the end of chapter 1114 can actually be read as Atomu in Japanese. And Atomu is how the word atom would be pronounced by a Japanese speaker. So, Oda appears to be telling us that the Mother Flame is a direct reference to atomic power in our own world. And that container which houses the Mother Flame on Egghead Island is actually the One Piece world equivalent of a nuclear reactor. Now here's the big conundrum we have with nuclear power in our own world. Nuclear power has the potential to be by far the most efficient type of energy on the planet, and in an ideal world, modern technological improvements could lead to nuclear energy powering the entire world in a far more efficient and sustainable way than, say, fossil fuels. So the potential for nuclear energy to be a source for a lot of good in the world is definitely there. At the same time, nuclear energy can be used to create the world's most dangerous and deadliest weapons, nuclear bombs. Also, since we don't live in an ideal world, there are real concerns about the safety of nuclear energy even when it isn't being used for weapons, as major nuclear disasters like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island demonstrate. The mother flame, and the limitless source of energy that it is based on, seems to have a similar problem to nuclear energy in our own world. Clearly, this energy wasn't only used for weapons, because we know that the Ancient Kingdom was using this energy as a power source for many magnificent things that impressed and inspired Vegapunk when he found out about them. So we can imagine that after they discovered a source of limitless power comparable to an artificial sun, the Ancient Kingdom used the technology for many noble purposes, from providing infinite power and curing diseases to feeding the hungry, building homes for the homeless, and making long-distance travel safe and accessible to everyone. Considering the nature of that giant robot on Egghead, we might even conclude that the Ancient Kingdom made many of these robotic creatures who acted as sort of servants for the citizens of the Ancient Kingdom and took care of most of their difficult tasks so that they could just enjoy their lives. I think it's highly plausible that the limitless energy of the Ancient Kingdom was used for these kinds of noble purposes, and I think that for a while the citizens of this forgotten kingdom lived extremely comfortable and rewarding lives. However, something clearly went wrong, because a massive global conflict occurred during the Void Century, so sometime after Joy Boy's birth, and then 800 years ago, the Ancient Kingdom was somehow defeated, and most evidence of its existence was deliberately erased from the world. But how did this happen? How did the world go from being a highly advanced technological paradise powered by limitless energy to a massive war zone that brought about so much death and destruction? The conflict is believed to have ended some 800 years ago with the death of Joy Boy himself. The most likely answer to the question of why this war happened is that the two warring factions probably disagreed on how the incredible technology of the Ancient Kingdom should be used. One faction maybe wanted to keep using the technology for noble purposes, while the other wanted to take that technology and convert it into overpowered weapons. Weapons that could ensure their dominance of the entire world for centuries to come. And the biggest clues that we have about this come from the ancient weapons themselves. Now, we've been familiar with the three ancient weapons for a very long time. We know that Poseidon has the ability to control the Sea Kings, we know that Pluton is the world's greatest battleship, and we know that Uranus is probably a flying weapon because in Greek mythology, Uranus was the personification of the sky. Most people now believe that the sky weapon that destroyed Lulusia was in fact Uranus, although there are some other theories about what Uranus is, everything from it being the moon to it being sun god Nika himself. Clearly, the three ancient weapons are three incredible powers that wield a lot of destructive force. But what if the name ancient weapons is actually misleading? What if these three powers weren't initially intended to be weapons at all, but rather inventions that serve a noble purpose rather than a destructive one? We now know that the world of One Piece is sinking into the ocean and that this has been going on for a very long time. So what if the ancient weapons were initially created not to destroy anything, but to save humanity on the surface from deadly flooding? I mean, think about it. Yes, commanding the Sea Kings would allow you to cause great destruction, but it would also allow you to pull large objects over great distances to safety, such as the Noah. So Poseidon could be used to save people from the flood rather than as a weapon of mass destruction. Same thing with Pluton. Sure, a large ship could be used as a battleship, but it could also be used as an ark to protect people from the flooding, just like Noah on Fishman Island and just like Noah's Ark in the Bible. Finally, if Uranus is a flying vessel, it could also be used to fly people to safety from a flood. It could fly them to higher elevations or even to the moon itself, depending on the nature of the vessel. So it's possible that the ancient weapons weren't really weapons at all, or that they didn't start off that way, but were then turned into weapons during the ancient war. If this is the case, then it captures perfectly the dilemma of limitless energy in the One Piece world and of nuclear energy in our own world. The exact same technology can be used to do so much good and to save countless lives, or it can be used to cause so much destruction and violently end countless lives. But okay, if we assume that the ancient war started because different factions of the ancient world disagreed on how to use this advanced technology, then how does Joy Boy fit into all of this, and why did he become the world's first pirate during this specific time in history? In chapter 1115, Dr. Vegapunk finally confirms that yes, a massive war was fought during the Void Century, and yes, Joy Boy was the enemy of the world government during that time, although at that time the world government was just an informal alliance of 20 kingdoms. The One Piece fanbase has been speculating about this for so long that it's pretty much been treated as fact for a very long time, but it's good to finally have official confirmation from Vegapunk. Vegapunk emphasizes that Joy Boy was so powerful that it took an alliance of 20 kingdoms just to stand against him. And he also explains that at the core of the ancient war was a clash of two types of ideas. So we know that the war wasn't just about fighting for resources or fighting for survival. It was primarily about ideas, ideology. Vegapunk admits that he doesn't know the full story of the conflict because the information that is available to him is still limited. But he does say that neither side should be considered purely good or purely evil. This implies that both sides fought for what they believed was right, but they simply disagreed on what right and wrong was, and we don't yet know where exactly the two sides stood in terms of their views and ideologies. That said, I believe that we have enough information to make educated guesses as far as these ideologies are concerned. Since we know that Joy Boy was the first pirate, and that Nika was known as the warrior of liberation, it's likely that Joy Boy's ideology was primarily focused on freedom. He believed that everyone should be free to choose their own path in life, that everyone should be free to travel wherever they want to go, and that this freedom should apply to all races equally. Since he was a pirate, it's likely that his kingdom was actually a huge alliance of pirates, buccaneers, giants, fishmen, and all sorts of free people who roamed the seas, went on adventures, and just kind of lived life on their own terms. This alliance was probably a very loose one. Joy Boy's kingdom was likely extremely decentralized, with every part of the kingdom having as much freedom and independence as possible. They came together for important events and causes such as the Ancient War, but in general they were probably a very loose confederation of free and equal peoples. Because of their desire for freedom and independence, Joy Boy and the members of his kingdom would have been constantly challenging the status quo and the rules and regulations that existed at that time. They were pushing for new advanced technology that would improve the lives of their citizens, they were ignoring international borders and simply traveling whenever and wherever they wanted, and they were pushing for ideas like freedom and equality, ideas that directly challenged the existence of more traditional and more authoritarian political regimes, such as absolute monarchies. On the other hand, the alliance of 20 kingdoms that ended up waging war against Joy Boy likely believed in a completely different ideology. Instead of freedom and equality, they were primarily focused on security and stability. They wanted to preserve their traditional way of life because they were worried that changes could bring about the complete destruction of their kingdoms. They believed that too much freedom would lead to anarchy and chaos, and because of this, they felt that traditional rules, regulations, and hierarchical structures were essential for keeping them safe and for keeping their kingdoms stable. Because the 20 kingdoms cared more about security than freedom, they wanted to use the advanced technology of that time in very different ways. Instead of coming up with bold new inventions that would change the lives of their citizens and reshape the world as we know it, they wanted to use that advanced technology to create weapons which would allow them to defend their kingdoms against people like Joy Boy who were trying to bring about change. They feared change, they feared the chaos that too much freedom could bring, and they wanted to protect themselves from these things by creating powerful weapons and using these weapons to destroy anyone who opposed their current way of life. So it was this conflict of ideas that started the Great War that took place during the Void Century. It wasn't necessarily a battle for scarce resources or a battle based on ethnic animosity or anything along those lines. Joy Boy and his pirate kingdom that valued freedom and equality above all other things posed an existential threat to the 20 kingdoms. Because, as we know, these kingdoms were organized along the same kind of authoritarian and hierarchical lines that we saw in the medieval kingdoms of our own world. This means that each of the kingdoms was home to a large population of poor, mistreated peasants who were exploited by the wealthy nobles for their own gain. These peasants would have been treated almost like slaves by the nobility. They would have to work the lands of the nobles for practically no pay. They wouldn't be allowed to travel anywhere without their lord's permission. They would live in terrible, unsanitary conditions and would often face severe poverty and starvation, and so on. Worst of all, they would have practically no way of ever moving up in life. Unless they were lucky enough to be born with royal blood, they would be stuck at the very bottom of the social ladder with no opportunity to climb up any higher. Once these peasants started hearing about a kingdom where everyone could be free and equal, and where everyone was free to do whatever they want and go wherever they please, they would be very tempted to revolt against their current government. With how bad their lives were already, they didn't have much to lose and they had everything to gain. And so the mere existence of Joy Boy and his kingdom threatened the future of the more traditional kingdoms of that time, including the 20 kingdoms. And so the war broke out, and as Vegapunk states, this war included the use of advanced weapons of mass destruction such as the ancient weapons. In fact, because of this advanced technology and the weapons it could create, the ancient war devastated the entire planet, and it led to a 200-meter rise in water levels over the course of only 100 years. The islands that most people in the world of One Piece are living on now are mere fragments of multiple massive continents that used to exist before the Void Century. The vast majority of that land was flooded during the war and it ended up underwater, leaving only the most elevated peaks of those continents as the islands we know today. This is why the world government was able to hide the truth about the Void Century so effectively. The vast majority of the evidence about what really happened was consumed by water and ended up at the bottom of the ocean. Now, believe it or not, it is not unheard of for water levels on a planet to rise over 100 meters. It even happened on our own planet when the previous ice ages ended. Basically, during an ice age, a large chunk of the world's water is frozen up in the colder climates, so the global water levels are significantly lower and there is more land. For example, the area around Indonesia and Australia actually had a lot more land during the last ice age. But that land was then covered up in water once the water levels on the planet rose over 100 meters. But even though the concept of water levels on the planet rising and falling by hundreds of meters isn't impossible even in our own world, when it occurs as a result of a natural phenomenon like an ice age ending, it takes place over a long period of time. We're talking thousands and thousands of years. Since this same phenomenon seems to have occurred within only 100 years in the world of One Piece, Vegapunk is convinced that it happened as a result of the Ancient Kingdom's advanced technology. And when Vegapunk saw that the sky weapon Imu used on Lucia led to the global sea levels rising by 1 meter, he concluded that this and similar weapons must have been used during the Void Century, which is what ultimately led to the rapid flooding that took place during that time. As Vegapunk states, the Ancient War left irreparable damage to the world, and because the ancient weapons still exist and are still out there, the war isn't really over. More damage can still be done, and Imu and the Gorosei seem determined to do exactly that. We know that the Alliance of 20 Kingdoms somehow won the Ancient War in the end, and Joy Boy was killed somewhere near the end of it. And yet, we also know that the war isn't over because the ancient weapons still exist, and at least 2 of them are in possession of Joy Boy's allies. Pluton is beneath Wano, and Poseidon is on Fishman Island. We also know that Joy Boy hid the One Piece on a mysterious island known as Laugh-Tale, and we know that the legend of the sun god Nika has survived all the way up to the modern day among the races that never bent the knee to the world government, and that were very likely allied to Joy Boy during the Ancient War. This includes the Giants and the Buccaneers. I mean, Joy Boy was the first pirate, and Buccaneer is literally a synonym for pirate, so it all makes sense. This has led some to conclude that Joy Boy must have been a member of one of these races, that he was a Buccaneer or a Giant or maybe even a Minx or Fishman. In the past, I even made a video arguing that Joy Boy might have been a Lunarian, which is why the Lunarians were driven to near extinction by the world government. I argued that Luffy's ability to use fire-based attacks, and the reason why his hair turns white in Gear 5, may come from the fact that Joy Boy's Lunarian lineage factor was passed on to Luffy through the Nika Devil Fruit. But regardless of which race Joy Boy was, I'm sure that the world government's hatred for Buccaneers, Lunarians, Fishmen, and so on stems from the fact that they sided with Joy Boy during the Ancient War. But okay, now that we know a lot more about Joy Boy and the Ancient Kingdom than we did before the Egghead arc, is it finally possible to determine what the One Piece really is? As several One Piece YouTubers have been pointing out recently, the One Piece could be the source of limitless energy that the Ancient Kingdom possessed and that Vegapunk has been trying to recreate with the Mother Flame. The One Piece might be that artificial sun that powered all of the Ancient Kingdom's highly advanced technology, including the Iron Giant, the ancient weapons, and so much more. Oda has always been telling us that the One Piece wouldn't just be something symbolic, like, the One Piece is the friends we made along the way. Oda has heavily implied that the One Piece will be something tangible and something important to the story. As Mr. Morge explained in one of his recent videos, if the One Piece turns out to be a source of limitless energy like an artificial sun, it could end up being the ultimate weapon against the world government and the entire ideological system that they represent and that they have been defending for 900 years. Think about it. The reason why it's very hard to establish a system of freedom and equality in practice is because resources are always limited, so it is impossible for everyone to have equal access to resources and energy. This leads to some people having a lot more and some people having a lot less, and to some entire nations having more while others have less. But if the One Piece really is a source of limitless energy, it could provide free energy for everyone forever. It could ensure that everyone has enough to eat because it can power advanced farming technology. It can ensure that everyone has a place to live because it can power advanced construction technology. It can make sure that everyone can travel wherever they want because it can power advanced transportation technology, and so on. If the world government wants to protect the current system of hierarchical inequality, a source of limitless energy would be the single biggest threat to their continued existence. So, if the Ancient Kingdom really had access to such an invention, and we know that Vegapunk believes they did, then this is the one thing that Joy Boy would want to hide away from the world government the most. This is the biggest threat to their rule and the single biggest hope for establishing a more just system of freedom and equality in the future. For that reason, this source of limitless energy, this artificial sun, must be the One Piece itself. And if this is the case, then that brings us to an important question. Why did Roger laugh? Why did he laugh when he discovered the truth of the world and the One Piece treasure, and why did he name the final island Laugh Tale? I think that part of it might just be how Joy Boy chose to leave the message on the final island. He might have done it in a very funny way, like in the form of funny hieroglyphics that look like a rubber hose comic strip or something along those lines. But the other part of it might be the nature of the source of limitless power itself. What if the secret source of limitless power in the world of One Piece was right in front of us all along, or I guess I should say, right beneath us? What if this secret power source is the planet itself? Now, I know that this might sound like some conspiracy theory, ancient alien stuff, but to be fair, the Ancient Aliens show is basically just One Piece theories IRL. Those shows are full of theories about ancient kingdoms with advanced technology, sunken continents like Atlantis and Mu, and secret sources of limitless power. In fact, according to some of these theories in our own world, the Serbian genius inventor Nikola Tesla believed that our planet is itself a massive generator that produces infinite energy by spinning around two magnetic poles. If that energy could be somehow harnessed, like we harness, say, the energy of water in a hydroelectric plant, then everyone on Earth could have infinite energy all the time. According to some of these wild theories, Tesla believed that ancient objects like the pyramids of Egypt were built in order to harness this exact type of energy. So the pyramids are actually ancient power plants that harness the natural energy of the Earth, as well as the moon's gravity and its effects on the Earth. Then of course these shows will throw in aliens and say how aliens were the ones who taught this stuff to the Egyptians in the first place, and so on. But with or without aliens, it would be pretty interesting and pretty funny if the super secret source of limitless power that Joy Boy has been hiding from Emu for 1,000 years is just a device to harness the energy of the planet itself. What do you guys think? Is the One Piece actually the ancient source of limitless energy that Joy Boy hid away on the final island in order to keep it out of the hands of the world government? Will this energy source prove to be the key to finally overthrowing the world government for good? Let me know down below, and don't forget to drop your predictions for what race Joy Boy will end up being a member of when his full identity is revealed. If you're looking for another mind-blowing One Piece video to watch next, check out this video where I explain why One Piece will end with Luffy using the ancient weapons to destroy the Red Line, link on screen and in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more ancient aliens, crazy conspiracy theories, but in One Piece, leave a like and comment for that YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and it's completely free.